In our tour through the Gospel of Matthew, we continue our voyage through the good news of the Gospel of Jesus Christ. The word gospel in its original Greek meaning and in terms of cultural meaning meant simply good news, often used to speak of a great battle or victory. In English, we have the word gospel, but we also have the word evangelical or evangelism, which is also in its roots meaning good news. Just a simple compound word in the original Greek, taking the prefix good and the second part, which is news or report. So the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, and beginning at verse 11. I'm going to be reading from the New English Bible. I tell you this, there never has appeared on earth a mother's son greater than John the Baptist, and yet the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Ever since the coming of John the Baptist, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent men are seizing it. For all the prophets and the law foretold things to come until John appeared. And John is the destined Elijah. If you will but accept it, if you have ears, then hear. Verse 11 is enigmatic. Here we have the curtain fall on the Old Testament. Jesus says that as great as John the Baptist was, greater still is the very least person in the kingdom of God. The emphasis is not on who the person is, but on the dispensation. In the new age that is here, it comes with the arrival of Jesus. The emphasis on the fact that there is now a greater revelation in the coming of Jesus. In the same way that when there is a full revelation of who Jesus is at the end of the ages, so too this dispensation or this age will be at its end. John the Baptist comes as the fulfillment of the prophecy found in Malachi chapter 3 and verse 1. The promise was that before the long expected Messiah was to come, there would be a forerunner. The idea would stoke the imagination of the people. Now, the Gospels were not an attempt to give a complete account of what happened in that time and place. So what I say here is a bit of speculation. The sense I get is that the work of John the Baptist created a mood among the people that something big was about to happen. The problem was that when expectations are stoked and nothing big happens, is that people begin to walk away. Now, understand what we're saying is John the Baptist stoked expectations of something big happening. And something did big happen, but it was not the something big that people wanted to happen. That's the key. Given that Jesus was crucified with only a handful of followers present, this seems to be what happened. And the problem can be not with what happens, but with the raised expectations of people. In the life of the church and in the life of faith, we can oversell what will be. When you do that, you will end up with people eventually disillusioned. Put the expectations of what faith can do, the life of a Christian can do, what the life of the church is about. If you put that high enough, guess what? It can't happen. People will get disillusioned. The danger is not in having high expectations, but it is rather to have unrealistic expectations. Goal setting is an important part of management and leadership training. We are told that we must have things to aim for and to motivate people towards. The church can be guilty at times of buying into this mindset. You see, what turned the people against John was ultimately expectations that he nor Jesus could or would meet. They were not about to adjust their agendas to satisfy the crowds. Churches must have expectations that are in keeping with what the mission and purpose of the church is, and not what we think the purpose and mission of the church and what the faith of the church is or should be. John says in verse 15, not everyone who hears actually listens. And the life of faith and the life of the church, it is important to distinguish between the words hear and listen. People may hear of things, and we would include in that sense, people may read of things and what should be, but it never penetrates to the center of who or she is. Listening in that sense is to perceive spiritually and respond appropriately and accordingly. In the work of John the Baptist, people could hear what he was saying and doing, but were not listening to what it meant for them individually. They were not listening, for they did not want to believe in what he was actually saying. You see, listening is only possible as our will becomes open to his will. The coming of the kingdom of God is about his will being done on earth as it is in heaven.